Hey everybody, are you ready to make those chocolate, coffee, coconut cupcakes that I tempted you with last week? I had about 350 people say yes, they wanted those chocolate coconut cupcakes. So while this is during my kid class time, I think I have more adults in the classroom anyway, and so this might be a little bit more than a young child can do, but it's certainly not too much to do if they have some help. So this is probably one of our longer recipes, but it is so worth it if you like cupcakes. I'm going to go ahead and start by washing my hands. And I'm going to tell you that everybody likes cupcakes, but they find out a few realities about cupcakes once they find out a few sad realities about cupcakes once they venture into the making of the cupcakes. Hey, Dolly and Judith and Barbara and Donna and Jenny and Philip. Hi, all of my friends. Okay, here's the thing about cupcakes. Cupcakes are tiny portions of cake. Therefore, and every one of them is basically cooked individually. Just because you got 12 holes in one pan does not mean that's cooking one giant cake. And what happens is we tend to like our very dense cakes, you know, like pound cake and a rich scratch cake. We want that rich flavor of a scratch cake in a small portion, like a cupcake. And what happens is we have the grandest of intentions. We build the cupcake, we put it in the cupcake papers, we stick it in the oven, and they come out puffed up and beautiful. But the longer those cupcakes sit there waiting to cool, then the dense cakes shrink back away from the wrappers. So it looks like the cupcake is wearing a dress that is too big and dirty. And the other thing that happens sometimes when we make a cupcake out of a dense cake is it ends up being too dry by the time you get it done on the inside. And I've seen all kind of tricks, you know, dip them in simple syrup and all kind of things. But I do have a couple of really good cupcake recipes that I'll share with you one at a time. But this one is the one that I advertised on my page about a week ago, and everybody said they wanted it. And that is the really moist, really chocolatey cupcake. And probably one of the best reasons to do this one on video is because if you've ever made cupcakes before, when you get done looking at what you have mixed up, you are going to say, I have done something wrong. I know better than to pour this very liquidy mixture into my cupcake papers. But you have not made a mistake. Trust me on that. So the first thing that I have done is I just took some coconut, that's about maybe a half a cup or a cup of coconut, and stretched it out on a pan, and I have put it in my oven on 350 for about 5 minutes. I think I might have gone about 7 minutes. I wanted mine to be a little darker. Now don't go too dark or you can burn your coconut. But this makes it kind of crispy on the top instead of soft and chewy. It makes it a little bit crispy and it's pretty on the top. So if you're going to top your cupcakes with coconut, you start by just toasting your coconut in the oven for about 5 to 7 minutes. Now, let's start by what we are going to mix up here. I'm going to tilt this down so you can see it. I'm going to start by putting 2 cups of sugar in my bowl, 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour, three-fourths cups of unsweetened cocoa powder. Here you go. Where's my cup? 1/4. Two-fourths, 3/4. Now this is a really, really rich chocolatey cupcake. Okay, now I've got baking soda and baking powder. Drop my 1½ teaspoons. One and a half. And I want, well, the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and kind of stir that so it's kind of, all that chocolate is evenly distributed. You see the smoke pouring off of there. All right, so now I need a cup of milk. I'm going to pour that in, and 2 eggs. And 1/2 cup of vegetable oil, and this is the mistake that I had put on the other one because I was trying to type it without my glasses. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Okay, so I've got 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. And now I need 2 teaspoons of cookie nip. And I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to do this because I don't want it kicking up on me. I am going to let that stir, and it sort of right now looks like a brownie mixture. Can you see how kind of thick that is? Doesn't that look, oh, and it smells like brownies too. Okay, before I add what is going to make us think we have ruined our dough, because that looks like that ought to be cupcakes right there. But if we used that for cupcakes, they would be thick and chewy, kind of like brownies, and we're trying to avoid that. So now I've got 1 cup of boiling water. All you have to do is put a cup of water in the microwave for 3 minutes, and I'm just going to slowly pour that in because I don't want it splashing up on me because it is very, very hot. And the reason I wanted all of that in there to already be stirred up is because if I poured this boiling water on top of those eggs I had in there, I might end up with some poached eggs. And that is not what I'm going for. And I'm only doing this slowly because I don't want it kicking up and making a mess all over me. Okay, now I invite you to look at what we've got. We've got something that is so thin. Let me see if I can make this any bigger where you can see. Do you see how thin that is? It's splashing. This is when you say I have done something wrong. I need to throw this out and start all back over. But you don't. This is really what it's supposed to look like. Now, when this gets in the oven, it's going to become significantly lighter. So it's going to puff up, and we do not want it to come over the edge. So I'm going to take out this and drop it in my sink. And let me see if I can fix this. Ooh. Did I mess something up? Now I can't get it to go back. Okay, you don't have to look at that. All right, I am going to pour this into something that is easy for me to handle. I'm going to pour out about half of it, and I'm going to pour the rest into a pitcher that I can come back after this video and finish up, so I can start getting my bowl ready to make frosting. Now, I've just got this in a bowl, in a little pitcher with a spout on it, and I want to fill each one of these about halfway. Don't go too high or it will come out all over the place. I'm going to put this pan in the oven for about 15 minutes. My oven is preheated to 350. This stuff smells so good. You see how it's kind of, the bubbles are rising to the top because it is so thin? You probably won't ever make another cupcake. When I make cupcakes, I typically have a little, like a scooper, and I scoop them all into, I try to put the same size scoop. So I am going to put this in my oven on 15 minutes. Alexa, set a timer for 15 minutes. Hey, Barbara from Easy Greasy. I know you have been thinking about me because I have been using your product all week for all of my Mother's Day pound cakes I'm making. Okay, I know I got to get this back because I can't stand that. Okay, now I am going to start preparing my icing, even though you cannot put icing on a hot cupcake. But I've already got some out of the oven so that this does not have to drag on. Let me tell you that if you don't like coffee, you can just make buttercream icing to go on top of these. If you like coffee, all you have to do is make up a cup the way you like it. Okay, you see this? I've got a cup of coffee. I like mine with creamer, so my creamer is in there. I don't put any sweetener in there because I'm already putting it into a whole lot of powdered sugar. But I've got that. I've got my coffee already. It went from my morning coffee. I made that up and I just set it out here on the counter so it's room temperature. It is not hot. I'm not adding hot coffee. If you really, really like a strong coffee flavor, you could use it black if that's the way you like your coffee. The great thing about being a baker is there are so many choices that you get to make because you are the baker. So that means that you get to make it the way you like it. Okay, now I've got my bowl washed. And while my cupcakes are cooking, I am going to start making my buttercream. This calls for, the buttercream calls for 2 sticks of butter. I have some, and it's room temperature. If your butter is not room temperature and you need to hurry up and get it to room temperature, don't add heat to it. Shred it with a cheese grater. That will give you a lot of surface area, and the butter will soften very quickly if you've shredded it. But I always have butter sitting out. Now I need 6 cups of powdered sugar. So I've got a bag of powdered sugar. I ended up with some. Thank you to all who tipped me off. Don't ask me how much I ended up with because it's none of your business. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and I'm going to need 2 teaspoons, no, what does it say? Yeah, 2 teaspoons of cookie nip. 1, 2. Now, many of you recognize what I have here is that I'm right on the way to buttercream. But when we make buttercream, we always add salt water. So right now, this is going to be way too thick because I've added no water yet. This is where my coffee comes in. You see this? I am going to put about a half a cup of this coffee. It's going to act as my water. That's 1/4. That's 2/4. Now you have to taste it. Oh my gosh, that is good. Tastes like Starbucks icing. I'm going to get it all off the edges of my bowl. Now, if I had used black coffee, this would be a little darker. And if I want it to look a little darker, right now it's sort of a mocha ivory buttercream, and I like that. But if I wanted to, I could, put a little brown food color in there. But I kind of like it, that ivory color. I think it's going to be dark enough on those very deep dark chocolate cupcakes. Also, if you don't like coffee and you wanted to make just a chocolate buttercream, you would do the same thing, except you would use salt water, and then you would use a little more of your cocoa powder to taste. I would probably guess for this much, it would probably be about 1/4 of a cup of the cocoa powder, and that would make a very yummy buttercream. But what I'm going to do now is try and find a disposable bag that I can put a tip in. I've got a tip that is a big tip that's a 1M. Let me see if I can find one. All I'm going to do is put the tip down in this disposable bag. And I'm going to load this up. Now all I have to do is squeeze this on my cupcakes. Now I have some cupcakes that are cooled, and I'm going to go get those and set them right here so you can see this. Can you see that? These are nice and cooled. I cooked these about an hour ago. So I am going to start in the middle, squeeze, and make just like a little rosette. Now I could do something that sort of looks like a hydrangea, but to me you don't get as much frosting, and why would you do that to yourself? Cupcakes are about frosting. Oh, let me give you one really good tip for when you are making cupcakes. When the cupcakes come out of the oven, that pan is hot and it retains a good bit of the heat. Go ahead and as quickly as you can, get those cupcakes out of the muffin tin and on a pan separated like this so they can cool. Otherwise, if you leave them in the pan, they will continue to bake and they may get too done and you may have a dry cupcake. Probably not with this recipe, but with most recipes. I always tell people, go ahead and take those cupcakes out of that pan as soon as you can because that pan is retaining heat. Now all I have left to do is sprinkle the top with a little toasted coconut. If you don't like toasted coconut, leave this off. But I love it. I especially love it toasted. So there you have your cupcakes. One thing about these that I want to remind you, don't fill the cupcake liners too full or they'll come out on your pan and then you'll be the first one mad. The second thing is get them out of that pan so that they will go ahead and start to cool, because what we are really hoping for is a very moist cupcake. Now I want you to look at this. Now, do you know there's a right and wrong way to eat a cupcake? Don't let anybody tell you there is no right or wrong way, because there absolutely is. You take off the bottom part, you put it on the top, and you eat it like a sandwich. But can you see how moist this cake is? This is the moistest cupcake recipe that I have. Oh my goodness, that's good. I just got some on my fingers. Oh yeah, especially good with the, sure, Tanya, come on, help me eat these cupcakes. My family is like, why do we have this stuff sitting around our house? Because usually they know better than to touch anything because it might be counted, because it might be for somebody. So they're real suspicious of all these cupcakes and things that I've had around here, all this quarantine baking I've done. Hey, Regina, I hope to see you at CookieCon again if you were there before. Let me see. Does anybody have a question regarding these cupcakes? I have to kind of look back to see. This is a really yummy, very easy cupcake. And once you get over the apprehension that, what did I just do to my mixture? It looks way too thin. I mean, this looks like you are pouring hot chocolate into the muffin tins. That's how thin it looks. And then you immediately think something is wrong with that. So, I encourage you to try these cupcakes. They are really easy compared to, with what you get. And I hope that you will post your pictures on the Cookie School site. You can still post it if they don't have coffee in your buttercream, or if you decided not to use the coconut. Whatever flavors you don't like, you don't have to use, except Cookie Nip, because, that's the best flavor ever. But you don't have to use a flavor that you don't prefer. That is the beauty of you being the baker. So I will see all of you soon on Monday. Bye-bye.